Good morning, everyone. Welcome to At Home with Hayley. So it's Friday, yay! I don't know why, I'm super excited today. I'm sure something will surface of the reasons why. Maybe it's because I had such a good night's sleep last night. But guys, I'm ready and raring to go. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Hayley Andrews. I'm the co-founder of Your Freedom Empire, and I'm a professional property investor across many different strategies within the industry, and I've been doing it for 18 years now. So guys, I'm here today and I'm going to talk to you about all things property. I'm going to give you a short update, and then we have a special guest with us today, one of our mentors from Your Freedom Empire, who is going to be talking to you about their specialist subject. But before I get on to all of that, can I just ask some of you to pop into the chat box there whether you can actually hear me or not? I'd hate for me to be babbling on. I can see that all of the attendees are coming through, and that number's increasing, but I can't actually, no messages coming through. If one of you could just pop in there for me, just to make sure. Brilliant. Thank you, Felix. That's awesome. Right. Okay. So I'm going to jump straight into this week's update, and I'm going to start off with the surveyor. Morning, Laura. Right, okay, so starting off with the surveyor then. So most of you probably already know this, but RICS, so the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, they actually put valuation restricted requirements in place for certain circumstances, so COVID-19 being one of them. And the reason they do this is so that they can put metrics in place to help surveyors value property across various different parts of the industry, so different property types and things like that, different businesses, so that they have a metric to follow. Now, good news is actually this week, all restrictions that were put into place by RICS have been lifted, apart from one. So the only one that still has restrictions around and guidelines in order to value is retail. Now, that's for obvious reasons, of course, but that is the only part of the sector now that has any restrictions in place. So the message is very much, still pre-pandemic valuations and no restrictions in place from the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, which is excellent news. So a few figures for you then. So June's figures have already surpassed May's volumes. That was to be expected, really, because, of course, of the hold-up completions and things like that. So obviously we're seeing those sales trickle through now. So Collier's reported that 760 million to date for June. So that's transactions. And May did 751 million. So there is evidence of recovery there. Like I said, it does kind of look like the backlog is coming through, but it is showing that the market is active at the moment. Albeit globally, monthly volumes are down against a 5-year monthly average. So this is what I was saying last week. There is a lot of activity, but actually if you compare it year on year and look at the months year on year, we are actually down. So, there is a lot of activity there, but it can be a pent-up demand based on the fact that, of course, we haven't been able to get out and nobody could buy property for 3 months. So just be mindful of that, and that's a message that I've been passing through week in, week out. But it's very active, it's buoyant. The surveyor is quite confident. A few other statistics here for you. In the UK, the largest deals or transactions that have taken place in May this year were a mix of UK portfolios. So we've got a lot of portfolios that are coming to the market, and single lets in London. Okay, so looking ahead, there's still a prediction here that opportunities for rental and price growth are still there in sectors with a general lack of supply. So this is the information that I'm getting and the feedback that I'm getting. So such as housing, of course, we have a massive lack of housing here in the UK, offices and industrial space. So I thought it'd be a good idea to look into that a little bit. So May's office investments total 217 million across 16 deals, and industrial 85 million across 23 deals. So there's food for thought. So the broker says here, lenders are tightening their belts. Values from their perspective are holding. They are valuing pre-pandemic. Restrictions have been taken away. They're able to get out there and do physical valuations. So they're quite confident. But, and there is a but, lenders have a lack of confidence in the values that are coming through to them. And if lenders still lend, and the criteria doesn't change, then it's predicted that activity will stay strong and the market will recover and house prices will stabilise. For how long, I don't know. And of course, I don't have a crystal ball. Again, we can give our opinions on this, and I have been doing week in, week out. But lenders are strict. They are changing their criteria, and we know that they are tightening their belt, and we know that lending criteria is changing. Loan to values are dropping, and there's less products available and lenders in the market at the moment. So we're fingers crossed there that it's in their interest. If they tighten their criteria and their belts far too much and they don't lend, of course, then we will have a market crash because nobody will buy. And, and it's supply and demand, isn't it? So hopefully, fingers crossed, they realise that there's got to be some flexibility here in terms of who they are lending to. We already know that they are being much more strict, asking much more questions and qualifying people, minimising their risk as much as they possibly can, as they are being cautious. So auctions are doing really well at the moment, extremely well actually. And what we have seen as well is a lot of HMOs coming to the market through auction. And to the market as well. So more than ever before. This could be down to COVID. Of course, if you've got tenants that aren't paying, you've got 6 tenants that perhaps might not be paying instead of 1. You're still paying for the bills and everything like that. So, a lot of people are actually trying to get out of the market now. COVID would be one of those reasons, but there's been a lot of change around this sector over the last few years. New legislation, licensing, stricter penalties coming in place. And then, of course, we have Section 24 as well. With that coming into full force this year, of course, people are trying to get out of the market there. So if they purchased in their own personal name, they will obviously be taxed if they are a higher tax rate. And they can't deduct that interest, mortgage interest. They don't get that mortgage interest relief. So because of all of this, there's a lot of people that are just looking to get out. Again, we predicted this a couple of years ago when all of these changes were coming in place. Of course, we couldn't predict COVID, but it's a natural progression of what's happening. We are getting much more professionals that are coming through. But of course, as a HMO landlord, I'm not looking to sell any of my HMOs. So because my HMOs run to the standard that they are supposed to in terms of legislation, licensing, planning and everything like that, I've always done it right. So the types of properties that we are seeing in auction do tend to be very poor condition, no fire safety in place, the layout is incorrect, room sizes aren't big enough, things like that. So it does tend to be HMOs that aren't fit for purpose, basically, for want of a better word. So that's very much the the update from the surveyor. And then if we move on to the solicitor, then there really is no update here. Kevin's response is everything's all good. Backlog is clearing. We're about 4 weeks from start to finish to get through our conveyancing process there, getting all of the searches and things like that done. And they're moving quite nicely. So they're able to get access to everything they need. And there's no issues that side. So from the solicitor side, all good is very much just the feedback there. From the builder's side, as of course there is still a backlog there. Projects have of course been postponed due to COVID, which are now being picked back up, which has obviously postponed the jobs that were coming onto their books ready to start now are obviously being pushed back 2-3 months as well. And then not only with that backlog, a lot of materials are still, well, not a lot, but there are certain materials that you're still not able to get hold of, or there's a lack of supply there. Plaster does seem to be a big one, and then carpets and things like that have come back into it this week, so we'll see that side of it starting to see carpet day, which will be good. But everything seems to be getting back to normal. They're able to get majority of the materials. There are a lack of supply in some, and of course there's that natural backlog due to the fact that they wasn't able to be on site for 3 months there. Then with the sales and letting side, it's increasing on May's figures. So more people are, viewings, more people are making offers, more people are going through the referencing process for the letting side, and inquiries are up. So they're up from May. So June's figures are higher. But again, it is due to, the demand is coming from the fact that people haven't been able to be out in the market. If we look at comparables again, if you look at even a 5-year comparable there, it doesn't compare to, the figures that it should. They're just back to pre-pandemic figures, which is, still good. There's still progress there. It's still, still climbing, which is excellent news. There has been, some large agencies, so estate and lettings agencies, are looking to buy out smaller agencies now, because smaller agencies are struggling as well. I know that Connells are looking to clear up here and look at a mass market, and they have purchased quite a few well-known local brands as well. So we are seeing a lot of the smaller agencies sell up to some of these big players in the market. So moving on to the broker then. So lenders are, of course, like I said, being more cautious. They want everything, including your inside leg measurements. They want to make sure that you stack up individually, regardless of what entity or how you are purchasing, whether that's through limited company, through your own personal name, whatever. So they want to check you out and see how you show up. Even going through a mortgage, so for a residential, so for somewhere that you are looking to purchase and live yourself, so your home, the lenders have tightened their belt there as well. So this is, kind of a different feedback to, of course, the surveyor, but obviously the surveyor is saying, well, if the lenders start putting too many restrictions on lending and changing their criteria, then of course it will have an impact. Well, they have, and we've seen that. So unless they start relaxing those restrictions that were put into place because of COVID, we may actually see people's affordability drop, because loan to values are dropping even on residential. So looking at a residential mortgage over the last week, or mortgages over the last week, they're being offered around 80% loan to value, and that's with a fixed term mortgage. If you are looking at a variable rate, then they're looking at 75% loan to value. So, people that are looking to buy their own personal home are having to put much larger deposits into the properties that they are looking to purchase. And the norm there will be around 90% loan to value, and that's around a residential. Now, with buy-to-lets, of course, they're income-producing asset. They do stress tests based on, the rent and things like that. So a bank will do stress tests in a different way. So buy-to-lets are looking at around 75 or up to 75% loan to value. And I stress this every time because, it is up to 75% loan to value. So if you are running your figures at the moment, it would be better for you to stress test that, looking at around the 65% loan to value, in my opinion. It is the 75% loan to value is going to be based on, the quality of the asset, the area, and the rent as well, of course. So they will do a stress test there. The lenders that we do have in the market are, of course, Roma Finance. They are offering purchase plus renovation products at the moment, which is excellent. We have Mortgage Works still, TMW, Coventry Building Society, BM Solutions. And then for our HMOs up to 6 beds, we have Kent Reliance, Paragon, and West One. They're offering up to 75% loan to value with around 3.4 to 3.99% interest on interest-only mortgages there. And they are looking at a minimum value for your buy-to-lets of £75,000 and a minimum value of £100,000 on your HMOs. For your 8 beds, you're looking at a foundation loan. So that's our specialist lender. They have a whole range of projects. I do this every week. Products. So they have a whole range of products available to you of up to 75% loan to value, and their interest ranges from 3 to 7%, depending on what it is you're looking to buy. Internationals at the moment are limited. There are some of those lenders that I've just mentioned to you that you will have access to, and that will lend to limited company structure, international, and your own personal name. But, for foreign nationals at the moment, that we're at the lower end of the scale. So, anything under £100,000, they're not going to look at all. Through a limited company right now is really tough for anybody. And the loan to values are much lower at around the 50%, still up to the 75%, but they are being much more cautious. There are rumours there that the bounce back loans, now this is a rumour, and I'm not one to, to talk about rumours, but it has come to me through a trusted person, so I will mention it. But I'm not sure how this will actually go ahead or how they can do this, but it is a rumour. So the bounce back loans there, you will not be able to use as a down payment for a deposit on a purchase. So lenders are talking about now adding a file marker to a credit file for fraud on this. I cannot say personally how they will implement this myself, but I'll keep an eye on that for you and update you if that rumour does come to fruition. Still, of course, there's a backlog there of cases. The broker is saying cases are pushing through very slowly, but lending is taking a lot longer to get approved, and this is, and past the underwriters basically. So it is actually the lenders at the moment that are holding up the purchase process, because everybody else is back doing what they're supposed to be doing. So the lenders, of course, are just taking time on who they lend to and what they lend on, naturally. So overall then, lots of internationals are looking to invest in the UK, of course, taking advantage there. Taking advantage of the weak pound and the lower interest rates on many money in the bank, and lending if you are able to get lending through. Looking to get better investment opportunities and higher returns on their cash. There are deals to be done still right now. Sourcing agents are very busy because of this. If you didn't, so just on the sourcing agent side, looking at the attendees this week, there's a few that didn't actually, I mean, not that I can see everybody, but scrolling through, I can see a few new names here. So looking at the attendees from last week and this week now, seeing that there's quite a few of you that are new, I would very much recommend that if you didn't watch last week's episode, go and watch it. It's on our YouTube channel, Your Freedom Empire. We can get a link popped into the chat box for you, or you can just Google our YouTube channel. But the reason I will say watch it is because it's a 2-hour session, and after the update, I'm talking to you about how to qualify your sourcing agents, what they need, and how to identify a good sourcing agent, what questions to ask, etc. Because sourcing agents are busy at the moment. I know that a lot of you are looking to get into the market and take advantage of various different things here, and I would hate for you to, just for the sake of watching that video, hate for you to choose the wrong sourcing agent and then end up with a duff deal. So have a look at that. If you didn't watch it, highly recommend it. There's not much really going on through UK lending through the limited company route at the moment, and that's for everybody. It is slowing, that side of it is slowing down. Many are purchasing cash with a view to refinance at a later date, and many are looking at purchase through their own personal names because more lending is available. Now, of course, be careful with that, because through your own personal name, you are taxed differently. So yes, you may have a better, a slightly higher loan to value and a better interest rate, and there's more products at the moment available to you. But you have to look at, your business moving forward, and speak to your accountant about that before you actually go forward with any purchase through your own personal name, because it may actually be well, it could be not very good for you in terms of the setup and structure there tax-wise. So yes, you have to look at both sides of the field. Lending may be more lending available in your own personal name and better rates or better products, but if you look at the long-term goal and how you're going to scale your business moving forward, and the tax side of it, it could actually wipe out any benefit that you have there and actually end up costing you more money. So be careful of that. Make sure you speak to your accountant. They will advise you on how you should purchase as well, and give you some feedback there in terms of your structure and your personal situation. Okay. Of course, with all of this, as an overall, we will know more what's going on in the market around October time, when the job retention scheme finishes, because that's when we will see whether businesses, with all of the bounce back loans and the grants and things like that, whether they are, back to business, operating fully, and bringing in the revenue required to keep all of the staff that have been on furlough on moving forward. So until that happens, really, October, it's going to be hit and miss. So, we can watch the market, we can watch sales, we can look at what people are buying. But of course, if everybody is laid off, at the moment we've got furlough, staff are on furlough, they are getting 80% of their wages, and businesses, of course, are not having to pay that. So the idea of this was so that people didn't lose their jobs and people wasn't made redundant. But if October comes, when the furlough scheme or job retention scheme stops, and there's no longer that payout, and employers will have to pay the staff themselves and bring them back into work, if we start seeing a lot of redundancies come up, of course that will push up unemployment there. So unemployment will rise, people's affordability will drop, lenders are already tightening their belts, and the behavior of people will change in terms of their buying behavior. So of course, we don't want that to happen. It is something that we will have to watch, and something that businesses can forecast. But, businesses will keep people on for their employees' sake as well, even if it means that they can't necessarily carry them through, and there's a position there when the furlough scheme finishes. So it will be an interesting time around October, and I think we'll have a much better idea of what the market is doing end of October, November time. So moving on to the foreign exchange then, the Bank of England upped their quantitative easing program yesterday by another 100 billion. It reassured investors for a short while, boosting the pound, but ultimately we've seen the GDP move to its lowest level since the end of May. Beijing have introduced a second round of lockdown, and infection rates hit their highest in six US states this week. So fears of a second wave or second outbreak are increasing. Because of this, these fears rising, we've seen a boost in haven currencies, halting the recent run we've had or have seen for currencies like Singapore, Swedish krona, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. But with Brexit at the forefront of the agenda still, the pound's prospect still remains limited for now. So the broker's suggestion really is if you are holding Hong Kong dollar, hold off for now. But if you are holding New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar or Swedish krona, then now is really the time, as it's a 3-month-ish level now. So personal opinion there, I think that, we could see another dip in the pound at the end of the year down to Brexit. But with the fear of a second outbreak, if infection rates rise, it will be minor compared to the amount you guys will lose out on. So if you do hold Swedish krona, Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar there, speak to your foreign exchange broker ASAP is the message there. So that was my update. So guys, I am going to move on to, I'll pop my camera on here. Hopefully that was useful for you. So this week we have Mr. Glenn Newson with us. So Glenn is a very good friend of mine. He's also a mentor of Your Freedom Empire. He's a professional property investor across various different strategies. But he's here today and he's going to talk to you about his specialty, which is distressed property. So Glenn, are you there?
Sure am. How are you?
So welcome to my virtual sofa. Good morning. So Glenn, majority of the people I actually think know who you are, but for those of you that don't know who you are or what you're all about, give us a brief introduction of yourself and then what you're going to be talking to us about today.
Will do. Excellent. Thanks, Hayley. So you're right. This is a very interesting time, and there's a lot of moving parts to this, and there's quite a bit I want to talk about. But for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Glenn Newson. I am from New Zealand. I landed in the UK about 20 years ago. I've been investing in property for about 12 years, doing strategies from HMOs, buy-to-let, serviced accommodation, and I've found that I've always gravitated back to my core. Trained as an electrician, I'm very used to projects and buildings. So I find I always end up back in that scenario, and I've actually made it part of my core strategy, just because I'm passionate about it, basically. So I get a lot of questions constantly from people about the process, what you need to do, what you should be looking for, little bits and pieces. And this is why I've agreed to do the course where I can download everything that's in this head to everyone that's out there, because there's enough to go around for everyone. And sharing information is the best way to create a prosperous environment. So today I've got a few slides on some basics, and then we're going to open up to questions at the end. Feel free to answer ask any question. There's no silly questions. If you don't know something, you ask, or you read it in a book. It's quite simple as that. So to make a bit of a start, I'm going to talk about the market here. During this chaotic time we've been in, I've sold 2 properties and halfway through the refurb of a third. So even though we've seen the market change and alter slightly, there have been ways and means around it. Now, 2 of those were cash buys, and 1 of them was with a mortgage. So lenders are there if the deal is attractive to them, because they are basically a business looking for customers, which we are, but they've got to feel the security that what they're lending in, the asset, is valuable to them. Yeah. My bit of an update on the market would be, I haven't seen a lot of change yet. It's 2 weeks now since the market has opened up. Letting agents and sales agents are getting a lot of traffic through the doors, people viewing, not a lot of offers relative to the amount of people that have come through the door, which is quite interestingly. Now, I believe this is a false buoyancy of the market because of furloughed people. People aren't feeling the financial pain of mortgages, etc., because they're still getting paid. Now, that will come to an end, and I'm watching this very closely. I currently have about 14 offers out myself. Hopefully I get about 13 of those, and it's going to be panic stations. But that's the point. You've got to be in the deal to get the deal. I think your microphone's off, Hayley. I can't hear you. Anyway.
Right. So you live in quite an affluent area of York, don't you? And yes. In terms of lettings and things like that, that's going really well around that particular area. Yeah. So I do think you'll kind of see, so the averages that I give on the UK, but you will have little micro markets and areas that will work very well. So in my area where I am now, and especially where I live, I've seen loads of sales go through, so lots of offers accepted, and the rental side has gone off the charts. But there are areas that I invest in where the activity isn't as buoyant as that. So yeah, I think October will be very interesting time, and it's quite exciting, isn't it? Because you get to watch people's behavior, what's happening, and if you're closely watching the market, you can kind of predict, and we have been, what's going to happen. And I agree with you. I do think they're obviously true statistics, but they're false figures, and they're actually down on any 5-year average. So we are still going in that direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, yeah. Agreed. And this is, I mean, basically every time I'm talking to one of my property friends of some sort of caliber, all around the place, Stoke-on-Trent, doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
It's we tend to grill each other for the first 5 minutes each about what's happening, and what are you doing? What's happening there? Is it, and it's creating the collective, getting the collective information and making an informed decision on it. Now, are we heading for a property crash? I don't think a crash, a correction. That's a nicer word, isn't it? But
I don't think it will last long.
No.
But I do think there'll be a lot of buy-in opportunities if you get in at the right time. Yeah.
No, agreed. So that's my take on the market. And
brilliant. So you're going to talk to us today about, of course, distress, and looking at a few of your slides. So I'll hand it over to you. I'm going to turn my camera off, and then I'll join you on questions.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hayley. Right, so this is, I'm going to give you a bird's eye view of some basics for identifying a property, whether you're homegrown here or external using sourcing agents. There's no difference. This is the process your sourcing agent will go through to bring the deal to you. And if I can talk a little bit about sourcing agents, they are actually a fantastic business. Not talking about a monetary point of view, but this is a personal shopper that goes out and does all the hard work for you, and then produces you a deal that might or might not work for you. Obviously, we all set our own return on investments, or whatever we're willing to accept. And you'll see later on, I'm very strong on using a spreadsheet. The spreadsheets don't lie. Unlike your bathroom scales that lie to you every now and then, spreadsheets don't lie to you whatsoever. and I'm very strong on following what it says. Don't try and alter things to change it. So if I jump onto some slides now, and I'll pop my camera off so I'm not in front of anything there. Property renovation. So like I kind of said, I started here even in New Zealand when I first came over, and it's just a passion that has stayed with me. I can never get enough of it. Taking an asset that's a little bit sad and tired, renovating it into something that looks amazing, and then watching a family or an investor take it over and just go forward with it. It's quite satisfying to me, and the UK has such a unique sort of ecosystem where this is possible. I've got a lot of friends from around the world, and this ability to add this much capital growth to a property and sell it on for a profit doesn't really exist in many places around the world. So I'm blessed to be here and been a part of it. So to start off, like I said, this is regardless whether you're doing it yourself or a sourcing agent is doing it on your behalf, packaging it together and delivering it to you. So most of the work should be done in your office space, wherever that may be, the couch or kitchen table while you're eating cornflakes, it doesn't matter. You triage the information that's coming through to you to try and identify something that's going to match your strategy. Whether that's cash flow or capital, it doesn't matter. You should be using a spreadsheet to identify very quickly if it's in your wheelhouse, something that you're interested in. Analyzing a deal should take no more than 5 minutes. This is quick fire numbers. This can be done on a piece of paper while you're standing in the property. Spreadsheet, like I said, should take you no more than 5 minutes. Now, the return that you're looking for is relative to you. I get a lot of questions from people I work with or students saying, what should I accept? What's the best? What's the lowest? That is completely relative to you. If you're looking at no less than 8% or no less than 20%. There is no right or wrong to that. It's whatever you're happy to do to have working forward, and obviously it's going to be relative to the strategy you're putting forward. With a cash flow, you're going to get a bigger return from HMOs and serviced accommodation, etc. But you're going to get a smaller return from buy-to-lets, which you're going to hold in your portfolio for a certain period of time, and then possibly exiting it down 2 years down the line when a train line has been finished that's caused capital growth in it. And what I like to do is every Christmas sit down, take a look at my portfolio, identify something that has come to the end of its life or something has happened in the environment that has created capital growth, and I'll quite happily liquidate that. So it's all about, constantly checking what you've got, what could be classed as dead wood, and how can you make that money work harder for you somewhere else. Check your deal exits. Now this is a big one. This is an amateur mistake where they zero in on something that's going to work in that area. Now we always say minimum 2 exits. What we mean by that is if you've got a flip, double check that if there's a market correction of some sort or a stabilization where it's not moving or you're not getting the offers coming through that you want, that you're going to be able to rent it locally, usually as a buy-to-let, to cover its costs until the market recovers or starts going in the direction you want to. It's better to have 3. That could be a case of instead of flipping it, buy-to-let, you could turn it into a holiday let, Airbnb, or serviced accommodation. So once again, you have these in your spreadsheets. Just to double check, yes, tick for my original return that I want, and tick for my at least second exit. This is very important. If you are at the percentage return that you're happy with, you can now move on to the due diligence and information gathering stage. Now, this is, once again, a very important stage, and you can take as long or as short as you want. Sorry, I'm just going to hang up on my phone. Sorry about that. You can take as long or as short a period of time to do this as you want. There are so many deals out there now that so many sites out there now where you can do all your research. There really is no excuse for not coming up with the information you need. The deal itself is broken down into two categories. The property with numbers, area, markets, what's happening in the area, is something getting extended, what's going to affect the capital value of this property. And it could be something external like an airport or a shopping center opening up or something like that. It could have a negative effect on the property, but none of this is hidden. So for instance, if there's a pig farm that's been given the go-ahead to extend to get more little piggies in there, but that is not ideal on the outskirts of a village where you've got a large amount of buy-to-lets or family people living, that could have a negative effect. Now, all of this can be researched using the local council's website. So there's no excuse for something further down the line that you weren't aware of popping up. The second part of it is obviously the people. Who are you selling it to? Who are you going to rent it to? You know, is it close to a hospital? Are you going to zero in on new doctors or nurses, or is it in a student area where you're not going to want a family living, or they're more so they're not going to want to live? And once again, buyers, very simple demographic of, are they a family? Are they newly married? Professionals. They don't want a huge backyard where they've got to mow the lawns, etc., etc. So you're doing research on those two separate subjects, as well as the finance and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. But this is the core of the property. Why are we buying this, and who are we exiting it to? Now, I get this a lot from people. You can talk yourself out of any deal. You really can. And this is where it's important to see who you've got in your business. It's great to have a driver who's pushing forward. Yeah, let's do it. I love this. And you've got to have the analyst who is drilling into the details and going, hold your horses here. Did you know this is happening or that's happening in the environment? Those two are the perfect environment to watch a company grow and flourish. You don't want a company full of drivers who just get on with it and don't look at the detail. Now, my biggest thing I like to say is you always need a female in your property business. You do. They're amazing at this. There's not much that they don't know what's going on in their area. It's just something they can do, for want of a soft word. All right. Making an offer. Now, to estate agents or buying agents, we can be their friend and we can be their enemy. It just depends on what day we're talking about here, because we naturally, and this goes for sourcing agents as well, they are not going to offer what that property is on the market for, straight up. Very rarely, I don't think I ever have. So they can get slightly animated with you or your sourcing agent when you produce your offer. But on the flip side, if something is staying on their books and not moving because it has an issue of some sort that your average Joe on the street doesn't want to deal with, we can be the savior and come in and move that off their books. So a lot of them have statistics on Rightmove, so they look at Rightmove like we do, but they have a next version of it where it shows their selling times, how quickly something comes onto the market with them and it's sold, their selling prices relative to what it went on the market for. So they get a lot of stats and readout. Now, they get one distressed property or something in not great condition, come onto their books and sit there. That can have quite a damaging effect on their market markers. So they can no longer say that we'd liquidate every property on our books within 6 weeks. So that's where we can swoop in, and they tend to like us. On the other side, with our offers, they don't tend to like us that much, but that's the point. We're following a spreadsheet. No emotion involved in here. It's all about numbers. Now, when you do put forward your offer, whatever it may be, try and make yourself as attractive as possible. So here's my solicitor's details. This is the possible survey date that I can go with, and explain your offer. Don't just lowball them and say that's what you're getting. Explain the cost of this or the cost of that. You know, give them something to feed forward to the seller, because this helps them justify why your offer is coming in at the value it has. Next slide here, spreadsheet, right? I know I've been talking about this, but these are very, very important. And a big no-no for me is changing the numbers on your spreadsheet to fit the deal. That's false economy. The numbers are relatively easy to drill into and to download from the internet. You fit them into the spreadsheet. The return on investment will be calculated. Now, the only way to alter that return on investment is either by upping the rent, which could be adding more rooms or maybe an ensuite to an HMO or something like that, or dropping the sale price. We can't alter stamp duty. We can't alter the legal costs or the sourcing fees or renovation costs. We can't alter any of that. They are what they are. And this is a common mistake I see of people, maybe shaving a little bit off of this and this that will give us that 16%. I would rather see you hold out from a deal for another month and get it at the value that you want it at, than launch in and try and absorb £2,000 into the ether. It doesn't work, and that's amateur investing. Strategies for the distressed or property renovation, there's quite a remit of these. They're not just buying a distressed, a broken down building, renovating and selling it. It could be you're doing it to a buy-to-let, so you're renovating it. You could sell it, or you refinance and pull that property back, the money back out of that property, and then go forward and do another one. It could be HMO. You could be buying HMOs, adding rooms, improving the layout, installing en-suites, anything like this to add capital. All comes, for me, comes under the remit of distressed or improving an asset somehow, so you can either sell it and make more capital, or refinance and try and get as much as your capital back out again. Serviced accommodation, you know, changing a nice family let in the center of York, if it is permitted, into Airbnb. I mean, there's a strong tourist trade here, and this is a way to get a simple standard 2-bedroom flat or 3-bedroom asset in the middle of the town to start really cash flowing. And all of this is under the distressed issue. Basic flip. A basic flip is buying a property, renovating it, not needing any PDR, so that's permitted development right. Okay, so this is quite important. This is buying a property, extending it to a certain amount. For example, different councils have different rules, but here we're allowed to extend a property 3 meters out the back, single story, with a 1 meter wraparound to the side, and we don't need planning to do it. We need to tell them that we are doing it, but we actually don't have to go through the planning department. We have to just notify them of it. You will still need building control, and building control is separate. They come and check that you're using the right materials to do it, but you can just do it. Now, if you're detached, if your property is detached, you can go 4 meters out, single story. Once again, without the need for going through planning. So these little things are important, and your sourcing agent will know what's the go in the area, because you're basically extending the asset. Anywhere where you're increasing the footprint of a building, you're increasing its capital value. And this is where you can, this could be done for HMO, which we've done many a times, or for a basic family house with a flip. Now, anywhere where you're stepping into the reams of planning, this is more development. Okay, so you're going to go through the planning process first, and there are a number of ways this can be done. You can buy it with existing planning in place, but generally a lot of the profit is already taken up in the sale price of the land or the building. Or you can get an option to purchase the property subject to the planning being permitted for whatever you're wanting to do with this. But this does mean you're going to have to get architect's drawings. You're going to have to get all sorts of planning applications put into to the local council. They have a 6-week time period, especially in York here, where they have to give you an answer, whether it's yes or no. It doesn't matter. If they go over that time, you're actually allowed to start the building project. So as you would imagine, the councils are pretty sharp at getting a reply to you. But that's bigger stuff. That's maybe a little bit further down the line. The last one there is gaining planning, an option to sell. So it could be a case of you find a building, you get planning on it, you don't do any work to it whatsoever, and you sell it on to a smaller other investor who wants to do the work himself. This is a great strategy. Arguably, it's the first bite of the cherry is the sweetest, where you're making capital with very little physical work involved. It's just a paperwork exercise. All of these, to me, fall under the remit of distress strategies where you're adding value somehow. Reasons. I used to get this question quite a lot. Yeah, but why are they selling it? Why aren't they doing the work? Why is the property at that price? Why haven't they got money together themselves? And there could be a wide range of reasons, but there's a lot of strategies that people will not get themselves involved in. Average, I don't know, office workers or your average person on the street, they don't want to refurb properties. The thought of working and trying to communicate with a builder is their worst nightmare. Yeah, so the basic one is a derelict property. Okay, so that's quite simple. It looks horrendous. The Addams Family house maybe comes to mind. This is probably a pretty extreme one to step into, but it all goes on the spreadsheet in numbers. Yeah. Dated or bad layout. The bad layout could be an HMO. It could be a house or a property for a family where they've done improvements themselves, which couldn't really be classed as improvements. The house doesn't flow. And I like to talk about this a lot when I'm doing viewings. We've all got the ability. Does the house feel right? Do you walk in and then take 3 lefts and a right before you walk through a bedroom and into a lounge? I've seen some strange stuff in my time. So you can simply add value by changing the layout or taking the advice of the sourcing agent on opening a door here, maybe moving something here. And another very simplistic one is having the wrong agent. I had a scenario where I brought an HMO, and it's quite simply the guy had the property for sale in a more upmarket town that was about 15 miles away, because he thought someone in that environment has got more money and will be interested in this property. He couldn't be more wrong. That property had been on the market for 14 months. We saw it just by chance, went and viewed it, and ended up getting an option and buying that, and it was one of our best cash flowing HMOs. Structural movement, next down the list here. I don't have much fear of structural movement, if I'm honest. Everything is repairable at a cost. There's all sorts of new building techniques where they can pump and underpin, etc. And there's just a cost attached to that. And that cost gets put into your spreadsheet, which reduces your offer price, which means it now becomes in your percentage where you're happy to move on it. It could be investor overspend or over leveraged. You know, they have another project coming up. This is the last of 3 houses for sale. They might be happy to sell it for cost so they can release their capital and move on with this next project they're doing. It could be over leveraged, as in the bank has got hold of them and said, you need to start selling off some of your assets because you're starting to make us a bit nervous. I see this quite a lot, and this is where sometimes you'll see portfolios going up into auctions, etc., like Hayley mentioned. Repossessions, unfortunately, someone is unable to service their mortgage. Now, these don't happen lightly. Most mortgage companies will work with people as much as possible to try and keep them in their property, because basically once they get a repossession on their books, this is a toxic mortgage. So they need to get that capital back out of that property as quick as possible. Now, this is a whole strategy in itself, because banks can easily advertise what your offer was on a repossessioned property. So, for example, if the property is for sale for 100 grand, they are duty bound, and the mortgage is maybe 50 grand that they're trying to retrieve. They're duty bound to try and get as much over that 50 grand as possible. And one of the ways they do this is if you offer £60,000, they might put a full page ad in the local newspaper saying, guess what, this house is worth 100,000 and we have an offer of £60,000 on it. Anyone want to offer 61? Now, as an investor, you scream your head off when you read that, because that was your offer. But they're doing it because they are duty bound to get as much of that capital back to the original inhabitant as it is. And it's just a game we have to play with them. It could be someone moving jobs, as simply as that. Living in the UK, all of a sudden they get a massive opportunity in Dubai or Hong Kong, something or other, and they want to liquidate quick and get moving because this is going to be their new life. A really great opportunity. I've had one of these where the guy's pretty much put all his cards on the table and said, you just make me an offer and I'll take it. That was an amazing conversation. That's probably the quickest negotiation I've ever done. Relationship breakups. Yeah, pretty hard times. Who knows how many of these are going to come out of lockdown? Interesting, locked up with your other half. Family upsizing. All of a sudden, it's not just a baby, it's twins. So you'll find a family wanting to move before that 9-month mark is up, and they've got 2 of them on their hands. Probate is a death in the family. The family may not want to deal with, mum or dad's house. There's too much emotion there. Maybe they don't want to refurb. They're really not interested. They just want to liquidate the cat and get on with it. Now, importantly, with probate, you'll see that your sourcing agents will do that. They will look into how many people are the recipients of the capital that's going to come out of the probate. If you got 4 brothers and none of them get on, it can be a big problem, and probate can drag if the other side are not in agreement to an offer that has been made. Probate also can take a while, where the government organization will evaluate all the assets the person had. That comes right down to jewelry, property, cars, everything gets evaluated. So an inheritance tax is calculated on that, and that's just a time process. You can't speed that up. But generally, the estate agent will keep their finger on the pulse for that. So you can view a property that's in probate. They just can't accept an offer from you until it comes out of probate. Portfolio breakups. That's quite often, you see this very often, where someone is possibly at a different phase of their investment cycle, and they're going to liquidate 25% of their portfolio, maybe pay some of the mortgages down on their existing stock. once again, you know, I get this question from people. This is a great HMO. Why are they selling it? What's wrong with it? What's the problem? There doesn't always have to be a problem. It could be, and this is where we like to talk directly with them and get the answers. Why are you doing this? Because I want to do this and this and this. And then short leases and title issues. Once again, going back to the estate agent, we can be the problem solver here, launch in and help them get this off their books. So that was a bit about reasons. Now, where to find? Obviously, there's a lot of portals out there. Rightmove is the one that jumps to mind, but there are very many others, and they're increasing constantly, actually. But don't forget about letting agents. This is a great area. I've found a lot of property investment deals through these guys. Simply a simple conversation with a letting agent. Have you got any landlords on your books that are looking to sell? Now, as a letting agent, if you're letting an HMO or a buy-to-let or something or other, this is on your books and you're servicing it. Now, best case scenario for them is if they can sell or get the investor to sell to another investor who's going to keep it on the books with them. They don't want it to be sold externally and then someone else comes in and says, removes it from that letting agent and hands it over to their local letting agent. So they can be a really good source, especially with HMOs or serviced accommodation, because they know all the details, they know the numbers on it, which are important, and you'll get a good gauge if they want to keep it on their books or not. Auctions once again are a good one. They bought a law in, it's a good 5 years now, which I'm all for, where they can't do something I called shark baiting. So they would put a property that's worth 100,000 on for £30,000 just to create the shark frenzy of everyone's like, oh, that's an amazing deal, and everyone launches into that, and it ends up going for 100 grand anyway. So now they must have that price within 10% of what the reserve will be, and this is a good way for us to be able to calculate quickly, and it gets rid of a lot of time wasting. So I'm all for that. If you are a homegrown investor, you can leaflet or newspaper adverts. I've got a phone script that I hand out. Anyone that's coming through the course, I suggest that you get what we call a nutter phone, and from the old days, that's a second phone, a pay-as-you-go phone, because once you're advertising yourself out there with a phone number, you will get contacted by a few odd balls, shall we say, telling you all sorts of interesting things that you don't really want to hear. So it's quite important that you protect your main phone line and have this nutter number where you can filter these interesting people. Another good thing, especially with the leafleting, is put a different name down there. It could be Paul, Sally, Grover. You could use a crazy name like Hayley or something like that. Yeah. And the point of that is you can zero in where you're getting the best response. Is it your leaflets that's got Paul on it? Or is it your newspaper ads that has Hayley on it? And this can help you just increase the supply in that area to get more feedback. Direct to council was a good one. Empty homes officers, the environmental officer, the HMO officer, all of these guys, remember, this is what they do. They're dealing with property on a day-to-day. So if you can create a decent relationship with them, you could start solving their problems. So I especially remember in the area we were quite dominant in, we found that the local council HMO officer would start coming and ringing us to talk about, number one, certain rules and regulations that were going on. Also, do we know who's got this property, or do we know who's got that property? And we would always finish it in, if you find them and it's not up to standard, ask them if they're looking to sell, instead of having the pain of the council on their back. And they knew that if we took over the property, we would raise it to the current standards, and that's one less problem HMO for the HMO officer to deal with. Builders are a good one. a lot of builders, especially if you work well with the builder, he spots a project while he's out and he says, oh, we could do this, we could do that to that. You're going to add money to that. I've got many a property through builders, basically because they want to keep their guys busy as well. Sourcing agents, we've sort of touched on them quite a bit. They're a fantastic tool to do all of this upfront and then deliver these deals straight to your email box. I mean, it's amazing. We do all our own numbers on it, sure. We do our due diligence on the sourcing agents, and it's getting easier and easier and easier to do that now. There's a number of places we can search, number of questions that you can ask, and I think last week, Hayley, you did quite a substantial sort of drilling into a sourcing agent, and this is the information you want to extract from them. So very important to do that, DD, because there are a lot of sourcing agents out there that aren't resonating at the right level, but we can hunt them down pretty quickly. Word of mouth. Mr. Fox, I've got written there. This is a classic example where I renovated a property. Someone was buying it before I'd finished, and the neighbor next door found me my next property. That was amazing. I just moved the guys off one site straight into the next one. More eyes on the ground, you know, and if you're going to offer them a finder's fee, that really encourages them to do this kind of thing. Other investors are a really good way. They're not always our competition. Talking to them, being open about it. You know, have you seen this? Have you seen that environment? I've bought 3 houses here. This is the reason I've brought them here. You should really think about getting one yourself. I can't buy all the properties that are around me, but I can also give someone else the opportunity to do it, because if they're a decent landlord or an investor, they're going to improve the area like I am, which is going to improve the capital value of my asset. So sharing information isn't a no-no, especially with investors. And retiring landlords. You get a lot of these. Guys who have a large portfolio and then they're looking to slowly liquidate them one or two a year, taking advantage of their capital gains allowance, which is about £12,800 at the moment per person. So that's tax-free on any capital gains from selling off an asset. And they may be looking to sell 1 or 2 properties a year. Now, you get into an older landlord who has a property portfolio of 20, and you agree with him to buy 1 or 2 a year, you're just walking into deals. This is a great strategy if you can agree on price. They are going to save themselves on selling fees with local agents, and also with liquidating them slowly, they're going to save themselves on tax as well. Viewings. Once again, this is a bit of a snapshot of what sourcing agents do for you if you're not homegrown and doing it yourself. When you're doing a viewing, document them as much as humanly possible. You know, I have a checklist that I hand out to the people on the course, and every little detail, because if you're viewing or your sourcing agent is viewing 8 properties a day, very quickly do you lose track of what was where. Photos as well. Take as many photos as you can, but like I've got down a little bit further down there, ask permission. Don't go in and taking selfies all over the place, all over the house. It can upset some people. Also, you'll find if you go into a repossession, you're not allowed to take photos on the inside of a repossession, or more commonly will be known as a company-owned property. The banks are very risk averse. We know this, right down to the point of taking a photo inside a building. Don't forget to take a photo of your fuse board and your gas meter as well, in case you don't have your electrician or plumber viewing the property with you, because they can identify issues very quickly. To give you an example, maybe the fuse board is underrated or is not up to current regulations. They can identify that very quickly. And like a gas meter, they can see that the external pipe coming off the gas meter is only 15 mil. That needs to be upgraded to 22 mil to supply to the builder. This is new building regulations, and you might not have priced for that, having the gas boiler at the back of the property. That could be an extra £300 that you missed off your pricing calculator. When we come to viewing, I like to use the clock face method. So that's where you walk to the front door, you start by taking a picture of the front door. And then once you've done all your viewing on the inside, you take another picture of the front door. That's when you get home and you're doing your numbers, you can download that segment of photos. It's something very simple, but it causes a lot less chaos when you're trying to figure out what that picture was of and where it came from. The clock face is more of a case of when you walk in the front door, you start viewing at 12 o'clock and you go to every room around the clock face. So then you go to the room to the right, and then the next room to the right, and then maybe up the stairs and start again. Room in front, room to the left or right, and then the room at the back of you, and then round to the other side. And this gets done in each room as well. So whichever room you are in, you walk into the room and start with the clock face again in a smaller dial in that room, because that way you're looking at the radiator, the window, the socket outlets, the carpet, the wallpaper, and you're keeping it structured. And once you get into that structure, especially when you're pricing up and looking back at your photos, it's very easy to identify something that you need to put in your spreadsheet. It's all about structure, really. Now, don't forget outside as well. Quite important. There are a number of things that can cause costs to rise outside. One is trees, or the lovely plant known as Japanese knotweed. This is a plant that can be very invasive to brick built buildings in the UK. It does get a bad rap, but the biggest issue with knotweed is lenders straight up do not like it. It can be removed if it exists in a property. It costs quite a few £1,000s. I've been in environments where we've done it, where they dig the whole place up down to about 1.2 or something meters, and then they sift the dirt to remove all the plant that's actually under the ground. Knotweed was introduced by the Victorians, actually, as quite a pretty plant. They didn't realize how much knotweed likes the British environment, and it goes pretty wild. It was also used by the Victorian trains to knit together the embankments on the side of train tracks. It was very good at that, but it didn't respect borders and started jumping fences and spreading into property backyards. So it's a very important one not to miss, should we say. Now, who do you need in your team? And your toolbox is full of who you need, and there is actually there's a large amount of members that make up your team or your sourcing agent's team. And so this is a good way for me to justify what a sourcing agent does for you. They bring together these tried and tested people. And we've all had situations where we've come across a builder that probably wasn't that good, or a plumber or something like that. Relying on a sourcing agent to deliver you a good build, there's a lot of trust there. But remember, this sourcing agent wants to come back to you for more business. So generally, they've gone through the pain of finding decent people to execute your jobs for you. So to run through the list, we've got investors right at the top. You know, we all use our own money, but why stop there? Why don't use other people's money to step in and do more deals using sourcing agents to deliver them to you? It's all about scalability. Builders, naturally, plumber, electrician, project manager. We can all project manage if you want to, but how can we scale up and have 3 projects on at the same time? You've just created yourself a job. This is what these guys do day in, day out, and the amount it costs for a project manager relative to the time that you will save having them involved, it's a no-brainer for me. That's what they do. Surveyor, planning consultant. Okay, so if you're thinking about doing something bigger style, maybe extending past that permitted development right, you're going to need a planning consultant. Now, the best planning consultant, here's a little tip, is a planning consultant that used to work for the planning department of the local council. There's quite a few of them. And then once they have a little bit of time under the belt, they will step away and become a private planning consultant. They know the tricks. They know what to do, what is and isn't going to get passed in their area. Architects, love these guys. Interestingly, if you boil an architect down, they are basically an artist. That's what they are. Now, I find that I've got to keep my eye on this artist because they are very much about how pretty the building looks and not so much caring about what my spreadsheet looks like. So, yeah, I definitely scrutinize what the architect comes back with because it looks nice, but it's not cost effective. A roofer, a joiner, a building control officer. So a building control officer is someone who will come around and check the quality of the building that has been built, make sure you're using the right materials, etc. You can use a local council building officer, or you can use a private company that adhere to the same standards. I tend to use the private control officer because the council guys are usually quite busy with a lot of projects going on. We've got painter, plasterer. Interestingly, I think Hayley touched on this just before. Plaster seems to be the new currency amongst builders at the moment. It was extremely hard to get hold of. My guy pulled it out of the bag and finished plastering about 2 days ago. So that's absolutely fun. Now, what he went through to get 20 bags of plaster was quite impressive. But he got it done for me, thanks to Dave. And we're at the painting stage and the carpets are going down as we speak right now. Tiler, quite important, and kitchen fitter. Now, more things, people that you tend to forget about, window fitters. They are usually very busy, so you've got to book them in. A scaffold company, don't forget about them. You know, your builder might have a supplier for this, etc. A skip company. Rubbish refuge has become a big cost of a job nowadays. It really has, unfortunately. You've seriously got a price for a serious amount of the cost of skips. There is a number of ways where you can litigate this, where you can ask your skip company to supply you with a skip that is going to be for timber only. That will be cheaper than a standard skip, simply because they sell that timber on to a local power station. We have one near us called Drax, and the skip company actually make money by selling that skip load of timber onto them, interestingly. Carpet fitter, landscape gardener. Now, this isn't to create the Garden of Eden or anything, but it's more to fast forward at the end, get some of that roll-on grass. That's amazing when that first came on. You roll it out like carpet. I mean, we've peaked as a species when we're rolling grass out. That's amazing. Tree surgeon, letting agent, naturally, sales agent, finance broker, insurance broker, solicitor, and especially important at the bottom there, sourcing agents. I know I talk about them a lot, but they're seriously undervalued heroes for what they do. I use sourcing agents myself to get stuff that's out of my area, and they run the project completely remotely from me. It's amazing. I've got my project going on here, and they're working hard on my project elsewhere. It's awesome. I love it. Right. So hopefully, let me just pop my camera back on. hopefully that's kind of helped everyone with a very basic, like I said, snapshot of what you need, where deals come from, what, answered a lot of questions. But we're also open for any questions. Throw them at us, and we'll see if we can tackle them. So let me just pop onto the question situation here. So if you want to sort of scan through and read any of those out, Hayley.
Yeah, sure. So we've got a few questions there, and I've got some questions here as well. Firstly, we've got Jenny. So she's not living in the UK. So is it important for her to look for a project manager, or can I take my sourcing agent as a project manager when he offers to do that service? I did kind of touch on this. Well, actually, I did a section on this, Jenny. So if you missed last week, you can pop onto YouTube and watch that, because I actually explained the difference between a qualified project manager and the process that they follow to the standard that they would do it to. But actually, as an international, a lot of people will use their sourcing agent. And you know this as well, don't you, Glenn? A lot of people will use a sourcing agent. They're not qualified project managers, but they will oversee the project. So they are your facilitator on the ground, pulling everybody together. So, Glenn,
yeah, and it's relative to deal size. Yeah. So if it's a little buy-to-let or just a little refurb of a terrace property, that's something that can be easily handled by your sourcing agent. Generally, remember, they're not fresh out of school, these guys. They've been doing it themselves. And a lot of sourcing agents are investors themselves. And the reason they're doing sourcing is because they may come across 4 deals in their local area. They can buy one themselves, but because lenders are extremely tight at the moment, they can't do any more than that. But they can source those other 3 on. They've got the team to execute the deal. And so why not make a sourcing fee from something that they otherwise would have walked away from? So to answer your question simply, yes, your sourcing agent can be your project manager, no problem whatsoever. Sometimes a builder is a project manager relative to deal size, really.
Yeah, brilliant. Good question. Okay, Melissa then, if a retiring landlord has 20 properties, all in good condition and unencumbered, how would you try and structure this offer?
So this is more, now we're delving into the idea of what that investor wants to do. Now, I would say most of the time it's tax. So they're wanting to liquidate their assets, but if they dump all 20 at once, they're going to have a huge capital gains tax bill, massive. So what they want to do is drip feed these out year on year, taking advantage of, like I stated, their capital gains allowance, which is here in the UK, 12,800, I think it is, personally, at the moment. And that alters year on year. So what you're going to find is they'll want to sell at least 1, maybe 2, but this is where we step in a whole different game of I'll agree to buy 1 off you a year for the next however many time, but why don't you let me take control of 5 of them? And now we're under the remits of an option where the retiring landlord doesn't have to deal with these houses anymore, but he still owns the asset, and you're making an income from that until you slowly liquidate down through them. So it's a really great strategy if you can find an experienced investor that's retiring and who understands it.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's answered that.
The option there would be a good idea as well. Because you, Melissa, then can get an option to purchase, but control it short term, takes the headache away from the landlord, which is what they're looking to do. But have also, as you said as well, they don't just want to get rid of all of them at the same time. So you get lots of people that are looking to get out of the market for various different reasons. But retiring landlords, is always a strategy that you can target. But I would get an option to purchase all 20 and on regular intervals, so maybe 2 a year or 1 a year, however I would probably do 2 or 1 a quarter, but controlling the assets in the meantime. So yeah, brilliant. And any value added then, of course, because it is an option, is yours as the investor rather than the owner of the property. Plus, that would stand as well. So if they were really old, this sounds really bad, and they were to pass away, actually, that's a legal contract. And then, you know, the beneficiary of any assets would not be able to say that you are not allowed to purchase that at that particular price. So you're securing a price today for a future purchase, which is a great way of setting that type of structure up.
Yep. I like to look at it this way. Would I be doing what the other investor is doing? And the answer is yes. So if I got to a point where I wanted to downscale my portfolio for whatever reason, and a younger investor came along and offered me this, as long as we can agree on price, I'd be quite happy to do that.
You're about that age now, aren't you, Glenn?
I'm a little bit, well, you're going to offer me something.
Yeah. I'll take portfolio off you. Right, next question. Yeah, you got a few years in you left, I think. So Jip, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. I'm terrible at pronunciation. Do we need to engage a survey or a surveyor to survey the distressed property before purchasing it? In my opinion, yes, always. Yeah. Yep.
For the cost, the outlay of a survey, you're getting a safety net. Okay, yeah. So a surveyor looks at a property with completely different eyes to what we do. We walk in there and pointing fingers, oh, that's horrible, that's horrible. They don't see any of that. They're looking into the bones of the property, and they can identify things that you missed. And even I miss things that
I don't.
They come back. They come back and they say, did you spot that? Damn it, no. And for the case of £450 or something like that, yeah, it's worth every penny. Yeah, definitely.
On mentorship, Jip, I actually make all of my mentees, and those of you that are my mentees on the call, I make all of them promise me that they always have a survey carried out before they purchase, regardless of how they are purchasing.
Yep.
Right. We've got Jip again. Would Glenn mind sharing his spreadsheets with us?
No problem. I mean, anyone gets it that comes over. Yeah. Whether you're yet to come over or you've already been, I'll quite happily share my. It's the world's best spreadsheet. Fact.
Can I have it?
Maybe right. Not after that last comment.
Yeah, no for me. Right. So while you've got these questions still coming through here, I'm going to look at a few questions that have been sent through to us.
Okay.
So we've both kind of touched on this already, but one of the questions is how important is it to do your own area research with a sourcing agent if you've got a sourcing agent sourcing the deal?
Okay, so this falls in the remit of time. So at the start, it's a new relationship. You don't just launch in without backing it up first. So you do as much of your research as, using all the portals that are available. It's quite easy to do. But once you're about 3 or 4 deals in with a sourcing agent, you're going to have built a relationship where you arguably don't have to be checking so in-depthly the information that's coming through to you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a mad woman when it comes to area research. So I'm a very area research person. So I think area research is one of the most important parts of investing and getting the right area to invest in, understanding the growth, the population, the infrastructure, how things are changing, and what's the future of that particular investment area. I believe is why I've never lost money in property. But if you are investing with a sourcing agent, you've done that type of due diligence to understand the area you're investing in and qualified the numbers that the sourcing agent has delivered to you in their deal package, and you're happy to move forward. Then the next deal that you do, if it's in that same area, of course, your time is reduced massively, and it's much more of a basic research to actually just check that deal out rather than the whole area as such. And so, yeah, on par with what you said, initially you've got to do the due diligence, and as much as it's time consuming, it's worth it. And like I said, I swear by it, which is, but I love doing area research, and you either love it or you hate it, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Doing area research, or is it not your?
I'm not big on it, but certain member of my team is big on it, so I'm quite happy to take that.
You've got to
You know, we have strengths and weaknesses. It is important, and the point is, it's readily available out on this net now. So there's no excuse for missing something. Information is so abundant.
It's all free, it's all out there. It's understanding what to actually look at from an investor point of view, because there is a lot, and you can, like you said, I think earlier, you can get analyst paralysis and actually end up analysing till the cows come home and never making any decision. So there's a line, and you have to understand where that line is, how much is enough to actually make a decision and move forward. But yeah, I think we are going to do an area research, a live area research, so we'll go through basic and then what you need to do in depth, and that's on one of the upcoming episodes. So great, good question. Does rent to rent work anywhere? The answer is no. And you know, I mean, I'm going to answer that one. Actually, you can chip in as well, Glenn. But I mean, even this week, I spoke to an investor that's been watching our webinars, and they've done. I never mention any names, but they've done rent to rent. Adopting service accommodation and a couple of HMOs as well, and they got quite a decent portfolio. 11 or 12 units, which is pretty big, all on rent to rent. And in actual fact, after the call, they realised that the call that they had with me, they realised that actually once we calculated everything, they were paying far too much for the rent, and actually there was no profit there at all. But they dived right in because it was all through one landlord that had said yes, 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 guaranteed the rent for a period of time. It's slipped my mind of what term they had, but normally, you know, I would say 2 to 5 years is pretty average there. But I don't know what he did, but you know, he's in a situation now where, of course, you know, the serviced accommodations, it's in kind of it's a town centre location, and it's not operating because of COVID, and is in a situation where it's in rent arrears. This is someone that's just been watching the webinar, so not someone that's come through our training or anything like that. But I actually just said to him, you know, at the end of the day, yes, it's great that you've got units and you've got landlords to, you know, you've gone out there, you've done something. But the biggest thing to understand first and foremost is not about getting the landlords. It's about identifying the areas that work well. And that is going to be relevant to the rent, and then relevant as well to the demand for serviced accommodation if you're looking at that type of model. But also your nightly rate and who your competition is. You know, the nightly rate was really low, the rent was really high, and there's hotels that offer double beds. They're all studio apartments for £40 a night. So it actually wipes out any opportunity there for it to work as serviced accommodation. So this is the importance of doing your due diligence, making sure the numbers work first. It's not about, you know, getting the yeses and landlords on board, because that landlord is probably sitting very happy with guaranteed rent, no worries at all. But the rent to renter, at the end of the day, we're not in this business to say, oh, we have 11 units. We're in this business to say we're making this much money out of our units. And I don't care if it's 1 unit and you're making that amount of money, or if it's 20 units and you're making 0. The person that has 1 unit that is successful is more successful at that strategy. So some people get hung up about how many properties do you have, how many, you know, and all of this stuff. And yes, I get it, it's credibility. But actually, that's asking the wrong question. You really should be asking, well, what's your cash flow? What's your revenue there? What's your bottom line? How much money do you actually make out of property is the right question you should be asking.
Yeah.
Because you can have, I know landlords that come through the training and they've got properties, you know, in different countries, and actually they're making, you know, they're not making money. They're in like negative, but some people just like to say they are in property and they own property, but actually that doesn't mean anything at all. You know, I've had landlords that come to me with decent sized portfolios of 15 to 20 properties, and actually they don't make any money out of it at all. They're crap investments, and they've just purchased them because they wanted to own assets. You've got to look at what you want. But no, rent to rent doesn't work anywhere. And on my course, I say this as well, and we do a live research, as in we actually research your area during the training, and we'd have a few disappointed faces in the classroom, it doesn't work in the area I wanted to do it in. So do you know what my answer is? Then you find an area where it does work. If it doesn't work, you don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole. You don't manipulate the numbers like you said, Glenn, so that it looks good on a spreadsheet. Because actually, it may look good on a spreadsheet, but if those numbers don't come, if those numbers don't come to fruition, then you're not. The investment it's not good. So. Yep. Sorry. So no is the answer. It doesn't work everywhere. Just with any strategy, you have to do your research. You got anything to add to that?
No, I think
rent to rents, or have you done it?
It's never a strategy that I ever took on. It's simply because in where I was, the cost of HMOs relative to the rental income just kept us busy enough.
Yeah,
we basically didn't need to.
And the rents in the areas where you would do serviced accommodation is really quite high as well, isn't it? And then you've got quite a lot of competition because, of course, it is, natural beauty lots. It's a tourist hotspot there as well.
Yep.
So you will have your ibis and things like that. So you've got to look at the market. You've got to look at what's already out there and where do you fit in the market. I'm not saying it doesn't work in York. There are areas of York that would work. But brilliant. Okay, good question. Sorry if I didn't give you the answer you wanted. What do you class as a distressed purchase? So this has obviously come through before you've done your session, Glenn, because these are questions that are sent through to us via email for people that make the call. But in a nutshell, then, just for this person that sent that question through,
basically,
your session, it will probably answer that question for them. But
it will. It's basically, boil it down, it's solving a problem. Whether it's a property problem, the property has some sort of issues with it, or is just crying out to be renovated in some way, or it's a people problem. So they're moving, or more kids, or something. You're basically solving a problem.
Yeah.
A property that needs something so it can move on with its life as a property. That's what it comes down to, really.
Yeah, I mean, distress could be, the property itself in poor condition, or a distress situation. It doesn't matter. So, again, that's another thing that you cover quite a lot in the course, is actually identifying the distress situations. There's actually opportunity or equal opportunity there, as in, buying a distressed property in terms of the condition as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be about swooping in and cutting someone's legs off and snatching a property. It can be solving
one leg.
One leg. Be solving a problem. This person, it's been on the market, or no one's viewing, and this is the reason why, whatever. So it doesn't always, we're always looking for the nirvana of a win-win, exactly, where everyone's happy.
Yeah.
And we walk away and high five. Well, maybe not with COVID around, but you know what I mean.
Elbow bump.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your biggest mistake or risk that you've taken?
Not listening to my spreadsheet. I know I bang on about it, but back in the early days, well, I'm pretty sure we could chisel that refurb down a little bit. Why? It means you're going to try and undercut the very guys that are doing the work to your asset.
Yeah.
And they have families, etc., that they've got to live, etc. So that was probably my biggest mistake. It's trying to alter the spreadsheet to fit the deal. Don't do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think. I think the biggest risk, I wouldn't say mistake, because actually I own mistakes and the mistakes, if I have made them, have been relatively small because I'm a very analytical, over-analytical person. So actually, the way I stress test stuff, it's always better than what I anticipate it to be. I'm happy with the worst case scenario that I've put in front. But I suppose the biggest risk, because it does say mistake or risk, so I'll go with risk and answer a different one. I did exchange on quite a large purchase because there was someone else sniffing around, and I'd been negotiating this deal for 9 or 10 months, and I'd done a lot of work in the background, and I wanted to make sure that that couldn't be sold to anyone else. So I exchanged contracts on a property that I didn't have the funds to purchase with. And so, yeah, I put the 10% deposit down, and it was quite a lot. It was well, not large, but £750,000. So I put 10% of it down, and I was waiting for money to come out of another deal, and I got an angel investor, but I hadn't secured it. So it was hit and miss. But honestly, the deal ended up being money in, money out. It's worth 1.5 million now. I only spent 200 on it. So in actual fact, it really did pay off. And and that wasn't my first deal. I'd done quite a few deals by then. But I was actually prepared to lose the 10% to try and secure the deal if I couldn't get the funds through in time. But
calculated risk.
Pretty risky. That's pretty ballsy, that, isn't it? Black country lass. That's where it comes from. But yeah, I think that's probably the biggest risk I've ever taken.
Okay.
Okay, I've got. And so this is a question that I ask every week. There are a few more questions coming around. So what book are you reading at the moment, Glenn? I
am actually revising. So I'm going back across my old. This is a good question, actually. So I've gone back into my little stack of books.
Yeah. And
starting again. Yeah. Right. So what is the one? Well, I kind of finished it. The Slight Edge.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
I love The Slight Edge.
Yeah, and great. I can't get enough. I can read that. I'll read that again.
Didn't I buy you that book and sign it for you?
You might have.
Yeah, I think I did years ago. Yeah,
right.
I think I did.
Did I ever say thank you? Oh, wow.
See.
Yes, great book. Recommend read. Definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and then one other question. What have you noticed most about yourself during lockdown?
Ooh, I talk to myself a lot, apparently.
Yeah. Do you answer yourself?
Huh?
Do you answer yourself?
Yeah, naturally.
I always said you're a little bit crazy.
My little 8-year-old, or he's now 9.
He's not little.
No, true that. Yes, a number of times he came out of his little gaming den to say, "Who are you talking to?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I've noticed. But I am actually quite content in my own company. So that's good.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so am I actually. I do miss people, and I'm quite a sociable person. But I've quite got used to it. I actually, yeah, I'm staying in tonight and watching a movie. Could have gone out driving, visited family. Right, okay, another question. Has there been any opportunity of distressed properties that Glenn gave a skip? So do you pass any of them up?
Oh, yeah.
And it does actually, sorry, there's a second part of this question. Any tips to avoid a distress property, on distressed properties? Good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. This is all about not missing anything. So there are going to be, but once again, it's relative to spreadsheet. I keep coming back to it. So there are going to be some more costly things involved in distressed properties. I know I touched on external influences in a property, Japanese knotweed, maybe large trees, something like that. That can have a pretty serious cost attached to it. So pay attention to the outside. things that you would cost a lot of money, and the thing that I see people, oohing and ahhing on is maybe a roof that needs replacing. That it's actually not a big deal. It really isn't. They put the scaffold up, they pull the old one off, they rebuild the roof, and they put new tiles down. So I know people freak at seeing visually that maybe it's because of the size of the roof or whatever the case may be. That's not really an issue. On the inside, the dreaded damp issue can hold a lot of gremlins. And this is why you will see me when I'm doing my clock face in each room. I spend special attention around the chimney breasts on either side, jumping up and down on the floor like a kangaroo, making sure, is it spongy? Is there movement? Because you generally get a lot of moisture coming down the chimney because they're generally not used for what they're built for nowadays. And that's where you're going to get the ingress of dry rot, anything like that. So I do a lot of stomping when I'm walking around and just listening for, is it starting to sound a little bit hollow? But everything is repairable at a price. And this is where I direct back to my spreadsheet. And if this means that you're going to have a second viewing and bring the expert with you, you do it. Because remember, everyone else will be detecting the similar things, and you don't want to be the one that's left the lemon if you wing it.
And I think that's a really good point, actually. Also look at, so not only what you're purchasing it for as well. So if you are, for instance, purchasing a property that has structural defects that will need to be corrected, and you've calculated that as part of your figures, so you're still within, the return on investment that you're looking to achieve, and the deal stacks up for you. What's your exit as well? So if you're looking to sell that to a family, that will actually show up. So in a lot of cases, even when the work has been corrected, a lot of lenders will still be quite skeptical about it. In my opinion anyway, and from what I've found over the years. But there's some that will, of course, but you'll be limited to the lenders, and they'll want to see, of course, all the certificates say that it's been done correctly, but also a lot of them want to see that there's been no further movement for a period of time before they will lend. So if you're looking to flip that type of investment, buying a property that's structurally unsound, you've calculated the costs of it, but your idea is to sell it to a family, they may or will have issues in obtaining finance for that, so it wouldn't work. But if you are looking to purchase it, do it up for a HMO, for instance, it's an income producing asset for 2 or 3 years, and then you're going to finance and pull that money out, that's different. So you've got to look at relative to the strategy you're trying to either rent out or sell as well, and the finance there on either you being able to obtain it or the person you're selling it to. So just be aware of that. And the same with Japanese knotweed as well. Although there are actually more lenders coming into the market now, aren't there? Because there's proper treatment plans in place.
Yeah, exactly. So then you get a certificate, and it's kind of like a guarantee. The company that does the removal guarantees it for a certain period of years. It can be up to 5 years. If there's any reoccurrence for it, they will come back. I mean, I've had a property with Japanese knotweed in it. It's never caused us any issues, really. It is what it is. It's not an aggressive plant where it pops out of the ground, turns left, and heads straight for your house. It doesn't do that. But if it's the path of least resistance for it. If you concrete it into a box and it grows out the middle, it will break that concrete over a period of time to grow out of it. It doesn't physically head for houses just for the hell of it.
Right, okay, there are lots of other questions coming through, guys. I think what I'll have to do is personally answer these back to you myself, because we're nearly 2 hours in, and I want to tell you about our new platform and give you a little bit of information about that. I'm going to move on, but thank you for the questions, and thank you for sending the questions through as well, and really keep sending the suggestions suggestions through as well on what topics you want to cover, because that really helps us make sure that we're delivering what you guys want. And then, of course, we can come and talk about those particular topics. So, Glenn, I'm going to say thank you to you. Brilliant session, pleasure as always, but I'll speak to you later. Have a good Friday, and take care. Everybody say thank you to Glenn. Take care. Bye-bye. So guys, I'm just going to go over then now our platform. So I don't have any visuals or anything for you, but this is something I'm really excited about. So this is a sourcing platform. Well, actually, it's much more than a sourcing platform. But what we're actually doing, we're trying to put investors and sourcing agents together. And there's many platforms out there that obviously monitorize this. And we were looking at ways, well, how can we, get the good sourcing agents with us and investors with us as well, so that everybody benefits and actually good people are just working with good people. So we decided that we would do this cutting edge platform. There's nothing else in the industry like it. So sourcing is just one element of it. And what we are doing is we're going to be offering the investor package and the sourcing package for free. So what you will actually find is you will be able to register as an investor and be able to see deals that the sourcing agents are uploading to the site, and you can do your own due diligence as you would with any other platform. But our platform for this particular functionality is free. So sourcing agents don't have to pay to be part of that. They can be your appointed people on the ground and be part of that preferred team in that particular area, and subscribe to our site. And you guys as investors can subscribe to see their deals that they upload. Okay, and we will manage that through the process and things as any other platform that's out there does offer currently. But what's different about our platform, and there is a paid for version of this platform, of course. So the sourcing element is free. You can sign up for that. But as a sourcing agent or an investor, we've actually got a platform that will use artificial intelligence to pull in area research from across the whole of the market. So it actually is going to identify opportunities, not only for sourcing agents to be able to source to their own database outside of the platform, but for you as an investor, it is actually allowing you to see the whole of the market, and the artificial intelligence will actually scale everything within the market to identify potential investment opportunities, giving you the whole background of that particular area, infrastructure, employment, crime rates, everything like that. And they will actually then present this information to you with the deal opportunity. Then you appoint a sourcing agent to be able to take on that deal, to exercise that strategy for you. I've had a delivery just come by the sounds of it. So guys, this is really exciting, and there's nothing else out there like this. So we're super excited to get this put live. We will let everybody know when it does go live. You will all get access, of course, to the free version of that, where you can source and liaise with sourcing agents, and you can see their deals, and the sourcing agents will have access to the investors as well. So that side of it is very straightforward, and there's lots of that out there already. The only difference is we will be doing that side of it for free. All of the area research side and the artificial intelligence will actually pull in the information so that it actually cuts down our workload as an investor or a sourcing agent, because the AI identifies the opportunity across the whole of the market, looking at everything, not just Rightmove. So pulling in various different informations from everywhere. And guys, while we've been looking at this and building it and working with our teams and giving suggestions on where information should come from, this is where my expertise with area research has really helped in identifying, well, actually, that statistic doesn't count because we need it from here. And so we spent a lot of time on this to get it right, and using the site now, I can quite confidently say that the site will deliver the same level of area research that I could go out there and find myself. So it is going to cut our time down dramatically as investors and sourcing agents wanting to source to their own database. So I will give you more information when I have more information in terms of a live demonstration, which I'll be super excited to show you. But keep your ear to the ground, and I'll keep you informed. So in terms of the website, guys, again, www.yourfreedomempire.co.uk. We do have courses across the whole of the property investment journey. So all of your distressed properties, your flipping, HMOs, serviced accommodation, rent to rent, buy to let, social housing. We do all of those strategies as investment opportunities. We do them one-on-one, or you can actually do them as an online version. You can do live in class, or you can actually buy a package where you get five of those strategies all put together. So there's loads and loads of courses online for you to go and have a look at. And we also do business, communication, and health and mindset as well, and nutrition. So looking at us overall as a successful person, and understanding each element of us and our business to help us not only understand investment, but understand how to run it as a business, how to communicate with people, and how to look after ourselves as well to make sure that we're running at our optimal level. So, of course, Glenn, he kept this very quiet, but Glenn and Craig have their new course, which is Property Renovation 101. So Glenn's given you a little bit of a snippet of, distressed property today. This is, an online course or an in-live class where it will be held over 3 days, where you do get access, of course, to all of those spreadsheets and things like that. So all of the tips and tricks of that particular trade, and Glenn and Craig, a stand-up comedian at the front of the room, but delivering good content and excellent content. So really, really fun course for you to do as well. That will be available soon, and you will be able to purchase or register your interest on a date through our website. Then, of course, we do the virtual property wealth mentorships. Guys, this is 100% online. There is no compromise. So those of you that have done the live mentorships, this is actually everything that you would get within that mentorship program, other than the accommodation, of course. And it is 100% online. And so you still get your chosen mentor, your state-of-the-art sourcing platform, your investment areas, your sourcing agents, your power teams on the ground, your core power team, so your broker, your solicitor, your architect, your surveyor. So you get all of that, and then of course you get 12 months with your mentor as well, holding your hand. So everything you need in order to be successful, but not only the theoretical side of it, but actually implementing that. So someone actually there pushing you to achieve the goals that you have set for yourself during those sessions as well. So have a look at that. That's available for you to book online. And then, if guys, these calls are going extremely well. There's a couple of people that are asking questions in the box here about specific opportunities that they've had brought to them, which is excellent. We haven't had time to go through it today. What I would suggest, I think it's Jenny, what I would suggest, and anybody else that wants to do this, book yourself on a free consultation call. It is a free call. There's no upsell. It's genuinely just to talk about you, your situation, and it will be with either myself or one of my mentors. And so just pop an email to admin@yourfreedomempire.co.uk and pop free call in that subject box there as well. And then, of course, we welcome your questions. So we know that not everybody can watch, but a lot of you may actually watch the replays on YouTube and things like that. So if you want your questions answered, email us through to admin@yourfreedomempire.co.uk. Pop in the subject box there, webinar questions, and we will get your questions answered during the session as well. So, guys, it's that time of the week again. I can't believe it's been another 2 hours. We're getting longer and longer, aren't we? We're going to have to shave it down so that you guys have a little bit of more control over the time that you're watching. But I want to say thank you to Glenn for doing today's session. It was an awesome session. And thank you, guys, for your questions. Some really, really good questions in there as well. But I am going to love you and leave you, and I will see you next week. Where we have a sourcing agent on talking about their particular area of Bradford, and they are going to be talking to you about the services that they offer, but also their one-stop shop as well, and how they like to operate with you, the investor, and the opportunities that they can bring to the table, and what works and what doesn't work. So really interesting week next week. Super excited to have our sourcing agent on there as well. But guys, have an awesome Friday, an excellent weekend, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care. Goodbye for now.